Okay, so today I'm going to be giving a detailed breakdown on how to play Mortar. I'm going to be using my personal homemade Mortar deck, not one of the Mortar decks that are meta right now. Um, but these tips will work for those decks for the most part, other than tips for how to use cards with the Mortar that aren't in those meta decks, obviously. But tips like where to place the Mortar, what to place to defend it, things like that, and how the mortar works are going to work with every mortar deck. So I wouldn't worry too much at all about, is this tip going to work for this type of mortar deck? The vast majority of these tips and tricks are going to work for any mortar deck. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's just find a game. And then I'll just show you gameplay, and then I will teach you how to do it as I play. So to start off, you don't want to be too aggressive, because if I had played my mortar right there, he wouldn't have done that, and now I can punish him. And I don't even need to defend my mortar that much with this deck, especially since I'm going to want to defend that P.E.K.K.A. So, and I still secured 2 hits, and then I'm going to shut down this P.E.K.K.A. as well. And then I want to Fireball. The nice thing about this deck is that the P.E.K.K.A. just shuts down the entire lane, and it can tank for the barrel. But basically, what you want to do is you want to be able to defend well and get all your cards right into cycle before you play your mortar. You don't want to just throw a mortar down with nothing to defend it. Never throw your mortar down if you don't have a way to defend your mortar. That is the best way to get your mortar shut down completely. Unless they decide to overcommit with the P.E.K.K.A. in the back. Then you can punish the hell out of it. Like this. And so I just got a bunch of mortar hits because he didn't have enough to defend, and he had to choose between defending. He had to choose between defending and backing up his P.E.K.K.A. And so that made his life a whole lot harder, because he couldn't just push with the P.E.K.K.A. He had to defend now. And so the nice thing about the mortar is it's really easy to punish people when they make misplays like that. Right, and he defended my mortar, unfortunately, but I can defend this P.E.K.K.A. pretty easy. Okay, what is your deck? He's playing a very weird deck. He's playing a really gimmicky deck. And the reason I like the Goblin Barrel with this is because it gets in there when the mortar can't. So if you're getting hard countered, the second win condition is very helpful. And then, look at that. I defended everything easily, because every time he played something huge like that, I punished with a mortar, which is cheap. I still have 6 elixir to defend it, and I'm going to have more by the time he starts playing other cards as well. Plus, he's going to have to defend the mortar and try to back up his push as well. The mortar is surprisingly good at against beatdown decks within the right deck. Right, so I can beat beatdown decks with the mortar really easily, because the mortar always gets at least 1 or 2 hits on things like Giant and Goblin Giant and stuff like that, and the P.E.K.K.A. just shuts it down, right? And so the P.E.K.K.A. is an amazing defense for the mortar, as well as the Evo Tesla. I recommend, if you have the Evo Tesla, use the Evo Tesla in mortar decks, because it is just such a good defensive building. And I don't currently have the evolution for the mortar at all, which is why I'm using that. I recommend the Evo mortar. If you're running a mortar deck and you have to choose Evo mortar or any other evolution, choose the Evo mortar. Okay, always, if it's a mortar deck, the Evo mortar is going to be one of your Evos. And that's just that. I recommend Evo mortar and Evo Tesla. It's a really good combo, and it's pretty much getting damage every time. Oh, excuse me. But it's pretty much getting damage every time, and a good amount of it, right? So I definitely recommend the Evo mortar with the Evo Tesla. And then the next thing I want to teach is when you're building a mortar deck, you want to have a mini tank, air defense, and a defensive building. Most decks are only going to run one defensive building, but with mortar, you're going to want a second one so you can defend it. The same as in Expo. You're going to want a second building to defend your Expo, like it's your tower, right? And that's how the siege archetype works. You want a second building to defend. I like having a second win con as well, because if I can't connect with my mortar, I can usually connect with my barrel. And so I highly recommend this deck specifically because it's just really good. I have a mini tank, I have a huge tank to defend my freaking mortar with, and I can, the P.E.K.K.A. just can shut down every card in the game. Literally every big card in the game. Boss Bandit, Mega Knight, freaking Golem, not Lava Hound because it's an air card, but what's another one? Goblin Giant. Literally all the giants. Every one of the giants. The P.E.K.K.A. is just anti-beatdown, and the best archetype against siege decks is beatdown. But with the mortar, once those beatdown cards get close, it's going to lock onto the tower instead. And the P.E.K.K.A. is going to clean it up. Or you're building. And then you have the Knight, which can full counter a Mega Knight by himself. Then you have the Musketeer, which is just probably one of the best air defense cards in the game. And then you want to have your two spells, just standard archetype. But when you're building a mortar deck, you want to have a second defensive building. That is the key to a mortar deck, is the second defensive building. And then another thing is... excuse me. I'm going to go into a trainer battle really quick. Oh, whoops. There we go. And so, what I want to show you is where you want to be placing your mortar. You want to place it right here or right here. One of these two. So that you can have the least amount of area being covered. That way you'll have barely any area being covered by the mortar, so it's harder to distract it. And then, okay, you can't kill me, I'm trying to teach people things, Jesus Christ. And then that way you can have the mortar right here and the Tesla here, and then things will lock onto the Tesla instead of the mortar. And since it's a little further back, it'll give you more time to play a defensive card when they drop something at the bridge to defend. Right? So if they drop something at the bridge to defend like that, it'll give me much more time to play something in response before it locks onto me. Right? And so that's why placing it right here is the best. There's the least surface area being covered by the mortar, so it's not going to it's a little harder for it to get distracted. And then it's easier to defend, and it gives you more time to defend as well. So that way, you don't have to worry so much about having enough time. You're probably going to have enough time. Unless it's like a rocket, you're probably going to have enough time if they play a troop to defend it. So with this deck, that way, if you place it that way, with any deck, including this one, you will have more time to react. They will have less time to react. It'll be harder to distract the mortar because it's covering less surface area. And it'll be less things. It's not things aren't going to lock onto it instead of the Tesla. Now, if you place it at if you place it at the bridge, let me go back into this. Now, if you place it at the bridge like this, right? I have 0 time to react to that. See, I had 0 time to react, right? Now I'm just gonna throw a bunch of shit at that so I can cycle. Okay. And then what we can do is, once I get a little more elixir, I'm just gonna get everything off the field really quick, so that I can just play. Okay. So now here, I placed it wrong a little bit, but usually this placement is going to have it lock on to the Tesla instead. I just accidentally botched my placement because I got distracted. But I will have to show you again. Let me just leave the trainer match. There we go. And then I'm just going to go back into a trainer match really quick, because I botched the placement and now it's just going to kill me. Because it's over leveled and I don't care about defending. I'm just trying to teach. I missed. And so let me show you the correct placement now and why, like, show you visually that it's going to lock onto the Tesla instead. And so now, when I place something, hopefully it'll trainer. Okay, or it's just gonna fireball it. Okay. I think you guys get the point. The trainer's deciding not to prove my point. But if you place it there, when they place something at the bridge to defend, the Tesla's going to lock onto it. Or the card they play to defend is going to lock onto the Tesla and come into the little invisibility range, where the mortar's not going to shoot it, right? And so then, you're going to have no issue defending it from there. You can go like an entire mortar lifetime without the mortar getting touched, except for by spells. The mortar will go its entire life without getting hit once, if you have your placements down. And so, if you're looking to learn the mortar, my biggest tip before I end this video is just practice. Once you know you've got a good mortar deck and you understand what you're doing, now you just practice. You just sit there and you polish it. I love the mortar because it is so much fun to play and because it's high skill. It's not easy to play the mortar because there's so many things that counter it, right? You've got the monk, like most troops counter it. You've got rocket, fireball, poison, you know what I mean? There's so many cards they can play to counter your mortar. But if you're good at mortar, it's gonna get through anyways. 9 times out of 10, you're gonna get that hit anyways. And you're going to get that damage, and they're going to be like, well, I give up, because he's just better than me. My counters aren't working, trying to defend it isn't working, this guy's just better than me. And that is like the power fantasy of the mortar, you're just better. When you win a game, it's not because you're using broken-ass cards, it's not because you're using over-leveled cards, it might be. But when you win a game at the top level, or at just even in games where you and your opponent are evenly leveled, it's not going to be because you're using broken cards or you're over-leveled. It's just because you were the better player, right? And that's what everybody likes so much about the mortar. At least that's what I like about the mortar. So my biggest tip with the mortar is to just use it. Just play it over and over and over again. And you will eventually get really good at it, especially with watching guides like this one. And so, if you just keep practicing, you will get good at the mortar, and I promise you, you will climb. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll be doing a playthrough of Dying Light the Beast when it comes out on September 18th, so don't miss it. Subscribe, and I'm sure you won't.